Across the vast African savanna, life does not follow fairness, it follows pressure. For centuries, survival here has been shaped by speed, strength, and instinct, refined through endless repetition. Every sunrise reopens an ancient contest. Every sunset closes the story of another life that could not endure the day. This land appears to belong to the powerful, to the hunters perfected by time, to those whose bodies are built for pursuit, whose senses are tuned for weakness, and whose patience is sharpened by hunger. Day after day, the hunt repeats itself, and every encounter carries the weight of finality. Yet beneath this familiar image of dominance, an uncomfortable question quietly persists. Is survival truly decided only by power? Because in this world, not all who live are hunters. Many exist under constant pursuit, watched, measured, tested by danger at every step. These animals are often seen as victims of inevitability. But the truth is far more complex. They adapt, they learn, they choose when to run, when to stand, when to disappear into the crowd. They rely not only on muscle, but on memory, cooperation, and restraint. Survival here is not a single moment of violence. It is a continuous negotiation with fear. Every river crossing is uncertain. Every open plain hides unseen risks. And every decision carries consequences that cannot be undone. In ecosystems like this, dominance is never absolute. Even the strongest face resistance. Even the weakest find ways to endure. Because life does not survive by force alone. It survives through balance, through timing, through the quiet intelligence of knowing when not to fight. And as the savanna stretches endlessly beneath the open sky, one truth becomes clear. In this world, survival is not guaranteed. It is earned, moment by moment, against odds that never rest. Beyond the idea of predators and prey, survival here begins with the land itself. The African savanna is not a static backdrop. It is a living system, shaped by elevation, water, temperature, and time. A place where life flows without visible borders, connecting plains, rivers, valleys, and distant highlands into one continuous arena of survival. Season after season, this landscape transforms. Dry grasslands stretch under relentless heat, while winding rivers carve corridors of movement through the open terrain. What appears calm from afar conceals an environment in constant negotiation between scarcity and abundance. The ground rises and falls subtly, forming natural routes that animals follow not by choice, but by necessity. Water dictates movement, shade determines rest, and open space offers both opportunity and danger. Here, visibility is both an advantage and a liability. Those who move in the open can see threats approaching, but they can also be seen. Those who seek cover reduce exposure, yet surrender awareness. Every feature of the land imposes decisions. Rivers become lifelines. They offer hydration, refuge, and nourishment. But they also concentrate risk. Along their banks, life gathers. Herds arrive cautiously, driven by thirst yet restrained by instinct. The water's surface appears still, but beneath it lies uncertainty. The savanna does not favor permanence. Grasslands shift with rainfall. River levels rise and fall. Paths that were safe weeks ago may now lead directly into danger. Generations of animals have learned this geography not through maps, but through memory. Routes are remembered. Mistakes are not. Even human presence has become part of this ecosystem. Communities that have lived alongside these lands for centuries understand that survival depends on coexistence, not dominance. Their movements, traditions, and rhythms reflect the same rules that govern wildlife. In this environment, no species exists in isolation. Every movement alters the balance. Every footprint changes the landscape in small but lasting ways. Large animals reshape vegetation. Smaller ones respond by adjusting routes and timing. Predators adapt to patterns created by prey, while prey respond to pressure imposed by predators. The land becomes a silent architect of behavior. It determines where confrontations happen, where escapes are possible, and where hesitation becomes fatal. Before a chase ever begins, before any confrontation unfolds, the savanna has already influenced the outcome. Because in this place, survival does not start with strength. It starts with understanding the terrain. And as the sun rises higher, illuminating the open plains and the dark lines of the rivers below. The stage is fully set. What follows is not chaos. It is order shaped by necessity, an order where dominance is temporary, mistakes are permanent, and the land itself remains the ultimate judge. While the open plains belong to speed and endurance, the rivers answer to patience. Beneath the reflective surface of these winding waterways lives a presence that does not chase, does not announce itself, and rarely wastes energy. Here, dominance is measured not by motion, but by restraint. The Nile crocodile has ruled these waters for millions of years, long before grasslands formed their current paths, long before the herds learned their routes. Its body is a relic of efficiency, low to the ground, armored in dense scales, built not for pursuit, but for certainty. Along the riverbanks, it is often seen motionless for hours, its jaws slightly open, its eyes barely visible above the waterline. To the untrained observer, it appears inactive. But this stillness is not rest. It is calculation. As a cold-blooded animal, the crocodile depends on external heat to regulate its strength. During the day, it absorbs warmth from the sun, conserving energy rather than spending it. Every movement is deliberate, every action weighed against necessity. When temperatures rise, it retreats to the water. When they fall, it emerges again onto land. This cycle allows it to survive periods when food becomes scarce, sometimes lasting months without feeding. Unlike predators that rely on repeated chases, the crocodile survives by waiting, by positioning itself where movement is inevitable, by understanding that thirst will eventually bring life to the water's edge. At night, its role changes. As darkness settles over the river, the crocodile becomes fully alert. Muscles tighten beneath the armored skin. The body transforms into a compressed mechanism, ready to release explosive force within seconds. Its senses compensate for the lack of visibility. Subtle vibrations in the water, shadows breaking the surface, the slightest disturbance can signal opportunity. But even for a predator of this size and power, the river offers no guarantees. The animals that approach these waters are not defenseless. Many arrive in groups. Many remain alert. Many are capable of retaliation. For the crocodile, attacking the wrong target can result in serious injury or death. A misjudged strike against a large herbivore may trigger a counterattack from an entire herd. A failed ambush wastes energy that cannot be easily recovered. Because of this, selection is critical. The crocodile does not target strength. It targets separation, distraction, fatigue. It waits for the moment when a single individual hesitates, when movement slows, when attention shifts elsewhere. This predator does not dominate through constant violence. It dominates through inevitability. Yet even here, supremacy has limits. There are forces along these rivers that challenge even the crocodile's authority. Mass, unity, memory passed down through generations. As animals grow larger and more organized, the balance shifts. What was once an ambush becomes a risk. What was once a certainty becomes a gamble. And so the crocodile adapts, not by confrontation, but by patience renewed. Because in this environment, survival does not belong to the reckless. It belongs to those who understand when to wait. And as the river continues its silent flow, the stage is set for the first true tests of dominance. Tests where size meets unity, where patience meets resistance, and where even the oldest rulers must measure their strength against the will of others. At the river's edge, not all visitors arrive with hesitation. Some advance with mass and confidence, carrying the weight of size and experience. Among them are animals that do not flee at the first sign of danger. The African buffalo is one of them. As massive bodies move toward the water, the ground responds beneath their hooves. Dust rises, vegetation bends. Each step announces presence rather than concealment. For the crocodile, these moments demand restraint. A full-grown buffalo carries more than weight. It carries aggression, endurance, and a readiness to confront threats directly. Its curved horns are not defensive ornaments. They are weapons refined through countless encounters. The river narrows the distance between hunter and prey. It compresses movement. It limits escape routes. This compression creates opportunity, but it also multiplies risk. A crocodile may launch from the water with explosive force, jaws closing around a limb or muzzle. If the grip is imperfect, the consequences are immediate. The buffalo does not collapse. It resists. Muscles surge. Water churns violently. And within seconds, the noise attracts attention. Buffalo are not solitary survivors. They are bound by an instinct that prioritizes unity over individual escape. When one member is threatened, others often return. What follows is no longer a hunt. It becomes confrontation. Several tons of moving mass converge toward the struggle. Horns lower, hooves strike the ground. The crocodile, once concealed, now stands exposed. In these moments, the predator faces a critical calculation: persist and risk fatal injury, or release and retreat. Statistics offer little comfort here. Attempts against healthy adult buffalo rarely succeed. The energy required is immense, the danger even greater. And so, most crocodiles abandon such targets, redirecting their attention toward individuals that fall behind. The young, the injured, those separated by hesitation or confusion. Yet buffalo are not the only giants that approach these waters. When elephants arrive, the equation shifts entirely. Their sheer size alters the landscape around the riverbanks. Water levels change under their weight. Paths widen. Vegetation disappears beneath their movements. For a crocodile, an elephant represents scale beyond advantage. Even calves are guarded with intensity. Adults form protective barriers, bodies arranged with precision. At the slightest sign of threat, they close ranks. The river becomes crowded. The water churns not from panic, but from authority. Any attempt to strike is met not with flight, but with force multiplied. Tusks swing, trunks lash. The ground itself vibrates. Here, patience overrides aggression. Crocodiles observe. They reposition. They wait for quieter moments. Because while strength can dominate temporarily, unity reshapes outcomes. These encounters reveal an essential truth of the savanna. Power does not operate in isolation. It is measured against response. Where solitary strength confronts collective defense, dominance dissolves into caution. And so, the river remains contested ground, a place where even apex predators must yield, where survival depends not only on ability, but on judgment. As the giants move away and the water settles once more, the lesson remains unspoken yet clear. In this world, not every opportunity should be taken, and not every target is meant to fall. Not every battle in the savanna ends with a kill. Some end with change. Beyond the visible confrontations along the riverbanks, a quieter process unfolds. One that does not rely on teeth or force, but on presence and repetition. The largest animals rarely intend to shape the land, yet with every step, they do. As elephants move through the terrain, vegetation bends or disappears entirely. Trees are pushed aside. Roots are exposed. Dry ground is broken open in search of water hidden beneath the surface. What begins as a search for survival creates new pathways. Shallow pools form where none existed before. Water lingers longer after the rains have passed. These changes ripple outward. Smaller animals arrive to drink. Birds gather. Insects multiply. And beneath the surface, unseen life responds. For crocodiles, these altered environments become extensions of opportunity. New breeding areas, sheltered zones where eggs can be laid away from the main river's unpredictable currents. In this way, the actions of herbivores indirectly sustain the predators that threaten them, not through intention, but through consequence. This is the paradox of the savanna. Predators rely on prey. Prey reshape the land. The land, in turn, determines which predators endure. Nothing exists in isolation. When large herds pass through an area, they consume vast amounts of vegetation, but they also fertilize the soil. Grass returns richer and more resilient. This attracts new migrations, which, in turn, draws predators back to familiar routes. Over time, patterns form. Rivers become corridors. Plains become gathering points. And certain locations repeatedly host moments of tension. Generation after generation. Animals learn these patterns without conscious thought. They inherit them through memory and instinct. Routes avoided by the young. Crossings approached with caution. Pauses that occur at the same bends in the river year after year. This accumulated knowledge reduces chaos. It replaces randomness with expectation. Even predators adapt to this rhythm. Crocodiles do not patrol blindly. They position themselves where history suggests movement will return, where hesitation is most likely, where fatigue builds. Yet no strategy guarantees success. Floods erase familiar banks. Droughts shift migrations. Human activity alters ancient routes. Each disruption forces recalibration. In this system, dominance is temporary. Balance is constant. The savanna does not reward those who impose control. It rewards those who respond. And while the surface world appears governed by conflict, the deeper truth lies in cooperation shaped by necessity. Life persists not because one species prevails, but because many adjust. As the landscape settles into a brief moment of equilibrium, another force approaches. One vast enough to overwhelm patience. One predictable enough to redefine survival itself. The greatest test has not yet arrived. There are moments in the savanna when patience is no longer enough, when stillness gives way to movement on a scale so vast that it reshapes the land itself. Each year, as seasons shift and grasslands dry, an ancient signal spreads across the plains. A signal carried not by sound, but by necessity. Hunger moves first, thirst follows, and soon the herds begin to gather. From distant horizons, millions of hooves converge toward a single destination. Wildebeest, zebras, gazelles. Their movement is not chaotic. It is measured, relentless, driven by generations of memory encoded into instinct. Ahead lies the river. To cross it is to risk everything. To avoid it is to perish slowly. At the water's edge, hesitation spreads through the front lines of the herd. Bodies press forward from behind. Dust fills the air. The mass grows restless. Below the surface, the river waits. For crocodiles, this is the season of abundance. Weeks of stillness give way to opportunity measured in seconds. They position themselves where the current slows, where the banks narrow, where panic will compress movement. The first animals step into the water. The surface breaks. The river awakens. In the confusion, selection becomes ruthless, not by intention, but by physics. The young struggle to maintain direction. The exhausted lose footing. The injured fall behind. Crocodiles strike not with fury, but with precision. A sudden surge from below. A grip that pulls downward. A violent rotation that ends resistance quickly. Yet even here, dominance is challenged. As numbers increase, individual risk begins to dilute. Thousands enter the water at once. The river fills with motion, noise, and overlapping paths. Targets blur. Selection becomes more difficult. The herds adapt without pause. They bunch together. They cross simultaneously. They flood the river with bodies, overwhelming the predator's ability to isolate a single victim. Wildebeest vocalize constantly, warning those behind of danger ahead. Zebras intermix, their striped forms breaking visual focus beneath the surface. The chaos becomes strategy. What appears as panic is, in truth, collective resistance. Mortality remains inevitable. Some will not emerge. The river will claim its share. But survival, here, is statistical. By moving together, the herd reduces individual probability of death. By committing fully, hesitation disappears. For predators, success becomes selective. They take what the moment allows. They do not pursue endlessly, because even abundance has limits. As the crossing continues, the river grows crowded with life and loss. Carcasses drift downstream, feeding scavengers and reshaping nutrient flow. The ecosystem absorbs the outcome without judgment. On the far bank, survivors climb upward, dripping and exhausted. They do not pause. They move on immediately, driven by the understanding that danger does not end at the water's edge. Behind them, the river quiets once more. For now, this is not a victory for predators, nor is it a triumph for prey. It is a transaction, one written into the rhythm of the land. Because in the savanna, survival at scale is never clean. It is negotiated through loss, coordination, and relentless movement forward. And as the last of the herds disappear into the plains beyond the river, another tension begins to rise. One not between hunter and prey, but between hunters themselves. When the herds move on and the river begins to quiet, the struggle does not end. It changes direction. In the aftermath of the crossing, the riverbanks hold what remains: weakness, opportunity, and competition. Here, predators no longer focus solely on prey. They watch each other. The crocodile, having waited weeks for this moment, drags its prize toward shallow water. A successful strike represents stored energy, survival secured for days or even weeks. But the river does not belong to one hunter alone. From the surrounding plains, new shadows approach. Lions patrol the edges of the water, their movements confident, deliberate. They do not rush. They assess. A carcass near the shore draws attention. The crocodile senses vibration through the water before the lions come into view. This is not a hunt. It is a negotiation. The crocodile holds position, jaws partially submerged, body angled toward the prize. The lions respond with posture rather than force. Heads lowered, eyes fixed. A slow advance, designed to test resolve. Neither side commits immediately. A crocodile cannot pursue far beyond the water. A lion hesitates to enter terrain where mobility disappears. Each understands the other's advantage. Growls break the silence. Jaws open, tails flick. These encounters rarely end in direct combat. The risk is too high. Injury here can mean starvation later. Instead, dominance is asserted through proximity and patience. If the lions advance as a group, the crocodile may abandon its hold, retreating into deeper water. If the crocodile maintains position, the lions may wait, hoping time weakens resistance. Elsewhere along the river, similar tensions unfold. Leopards appear silently, drawn by scent rather than sound. They avoid confrontation whenever possible, preferring stealth over contest. If opportunity allows, they seize smaller remains and retreat quickly into cover. Hyenas arrive in groups, vocal and persistent. Their presence alone alters the balance. They do not challenge directly at first. They wear down opposition through numbers and noise. In these moments, hierarchy becomes fluid. No predator rules permanently. Control shifts according to context, numbers, and timing. What matters is not strength alone, but risk management. A successful predator is not the one that fights most often. It is the one that survives to hunt again. These encounters reveal another truth of the savanna. Predators are not united by purpose. They are bound by competition. Every carcass becomes a focal point where decisions carry consequences beyond the moment. Fight and risk injury. Yield and conserve strength. The landscape itself enforces restraint. Because in a place where survival depends on efficiency, unnecessary conflict becomes liability. As the sun lowers and shadows stretch across the riverbanks, tensions ease without resolution. Some hunters leave with food, others leave with nothing, but all remain alive. And in this environment, that alone is success. Yet not all hunting relies on confrontation or numbers. As daylight fades, a different strategy begins to dominate, one built on solitude, precision, and absolute silence. As daylight fades and the savanna exhales the heat of the afternoon, the rhythm shifts once more. Calm returns, but it is deceptive. Across the plains, life resumes its surface normality. Herds spread out to feed. Individuals lower their heads. Attention drifts. This is when the cycle repeats. A lioness moves first. She advances low to the ground, body aligned with the grass, each step measured. Her approach is silent, not rushed. Speed is reserved for the final seconds. Ahead, a group of antelope grazes without urgency. One individual stands slightly apart. Its distance from the group is small, but significant. The lioness pauses. She waits for alignment. Wind, distance, angle. Then the stillness shatters. The chase is brief and explosive. Dust rises. Hooves strike the earth in panic. The antelope zigzags, attempting to break pursuit through sudden changes in direction. The lioness adapts instantly, cutting corners rather than following blindly. Within moments, momentum decides the outcome. When the antelope stumbles, the hunt ends. The lioness does not linger. She feeds quickly, aware that success draws attention. Elsewhere, a different strategy unfolds. A pack of wild dogs moves through the undergrowth with coordination refined by necessity. They do not stalk for long. They test. They probe the edges of a herd, forcing movement, creating confusion, identifying weakness through reaction rather than observation. When the signal comes, the pack accelerates together. Endurance replaces speed. Pressure replaces surprise. The prey runs not from one predator, but from many. Each turn closes another path. Fatigue accumulates rapidly. The outcome is decided by collapse rather than capture. In contrast, solitude governs another hunter's domain. The leopard emerges at dusk, its patterned coat dissolving into shadow. It does not chase openly. It positions itself above. Branches bend slightly as it advances along a familiar route. Below, an unsuspecting animal feeds beneath the canopy. The leap is sudden and absolute. There is no pursuit, no warning. The leopard's strength is not displayed. It is applied. Moments later, the prey is lifted from the ground and carried into cover, away from scavengers and rivals. Again, calm returns. This pattern repeats across the savanna countless times each day. Different hunters, different strategies, same structure, peace, detection, commitment, outcome. Yet each repetition carries variation. Sometimes the prey escapes. Sometimes the predator miscalculates. Sometimes interference alters the result. Failure is absorbed quickly. There is no reflection, only adjustment. These hunts do not exist to entertain. They exist to sustain. Energy gained must outweigh energy spent. Injury must be avoided at all costs. Success is measured not by spectacle, but by survival beyond the moment. As night deepens, the savanna settles into fragmented silence. Scavengers move in. Feeding continues in stages. Above it all, the stars remain indifferent. Because in this world, hunting is not an event. It is a process, one that repeats endlessly, quietly shaping the balance between life and loss. And as darkness gives way to the first light of dawn, the cycle prepares to begin again. This time, with consequences that reach far beyond the hunt itself. As the sun rises once more over the savanna, the land appears unchanged. Grass bends gently in the morning light. Birds move between branches. Herds resume their slow advance across the plains. Yet beneath this calm, the consequences of survival linger. Every hunt has altered something. Every crossing has removed lives while sustaining others. Every decision has left a mark, even if it cannot be seen. The savanna does not remember individuals. It remembers patterns. Predators do not dominate endlessly. Prey does not endure without cost. Balance emerges not from fairness, but from adjustment. Those who survive do so because they respond correctly to pressure. They move when movement is required. They wait when patience offers advantage. They retreat when resistance outweighs reward. In this world, strength alone is insufficient. Speed alone is unreliable. Numbers alone do not guarantee safety. What endures is adaptability. Rivers continue to guide migration. Plains continue to expose weakness. Forests continue to reward silence. Life persists because it is flexible. When one species declines, another expands. When one route becomes dangerous, another emerges. When dominance shifts, the system absorbs the change and continues. This is not a struggle with a final winner. It is an ongoing negotiation between risk and restraint. The crocodile returns to stillness. The lions rest after feeding. The herds move on, carrying memory forward. Tomorrow, the same challenges will return in different forms. Hunger will rise again. Thirst will dictate movement. Opportunity will present itself to those who wait. And so the cycle continues. Not because it must, but because it works. In the savanna, survival is not an act of defiance. It is an acceptance of reality shaped by choice. Life does not seek dominance. It seeks continuity. And as daylight spreads across the land once more, one truth remains unchanged. In a world governed by pressure, survival belongs not to the strongest, but to those who understand when to move, when to resist, and when to let the land decide.